want to confirm that my vote is no.
Mrs. Thomas against Cole.
What is up, guys? Matt here. I'm back. We're going to be hanging out.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm going to be eating a homemade bagel. Thank you, Graham, for baking some bagels earlier today. I've just got up on my screen share here. Actually, the vote right now is coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to confirm that my vote was cast as a nay.
It is registered. Mr. Redikoff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just too want to confirm that my vote was cast as a negative. Nay.
Your vote was registered as nay. Mr. Stewart.
I can't imagine a more important vote than this right now. I just muted it here for a second. But again, feel free to jump in and ask any questions, anything you guys want to discuss. I've got a whole host of different things that I'm happy to chat with. I wonder if anyone knows of a stream that's like literally showing the live count IRL. Let me know. This is just a live stream someone shared in our Discord channel. So while I'm showing you guys that, I'll also bring this down here just so you guys can see our Discord. I know a lot of you guys are brand new to Discord or have never tried it out. This is the Problems or Profit server. I really do encourage you guys to, if you enjoy what I'm doing with the Maple Pill, you should strongly consider joining. Now, there's a bunch of different sections. There's an Ask Me Anything in regards to me. So literally, you can just ask me any questions. I try and answer every single question that gets sent my way. We've also got like a news and crypto section. So if you want to ask specific crypto questions or Bitcoin questions, that's a great spot. And again, I'm not claiming to be the expert here. So there are lots of other great community members that'll jump in. There's actually about 500 plus members. Maybe we're even at 550 now in the Discord. Again, completely free right now. I'll probably eventually put it behind at least like a registration wall, if not a paywall, just to try and keep the quality up, because we've actually got a great group of people. There's also a section on news, politics in the world. And so, you know, there's a separate channel literally just on the Maple Pill. So if you guys ever have questions about the Maple Pill or have story suggestions or anything like that, this is a great source for it as well. So I encourage you to check that out. Then we've got the Citadel. So if you guys are interested in learning more about what I'm doing here with the Citadel, potentially joining me, you know, we've got general discussions. We've got an introduction page. We've got how the hell do I join? A planning and execution, a whole thread now on homeschooling. We also plan on hosting a Problems or Profits conference this summer at the Citadel. So again, that'll be a great opportunity. And then there's an amazing page here on resources that I strongly encourage you guys to check out if you're interested in like prepping or homesteading or just maybe improving the resiliency of your living situation or your family's living situation. Amazing resources in here. Essentially everything that's really good I find, I share in this channel. So again, encourage you guys to check that out if you're so inclined. And again, the vote still going live right now. Like honestly, before I went live on I'm feeling better now, but before I went live for the Maple Pill, like I was just shaking. And maybe it's the 3 black teas I had earlier today. Maybe it's the fact that I'm scared we're going to watch democracy die in our country right now. And like understand technically, it's so hard to interpret the law and what's allowed and what's not allowed. I think they've given themselves such a broad mandate with it that like probably making the Maple Pill is illegal, right? Like probably me even showing support just verbally and talking about what's going on could be construed as being illegal here in our country. We saw Andy Lee, the one reporter that I've recommended to you guys multiple times. She's used to go by Hannah Bananas on Twitter. She's been deleted and blocked from it. She's also had her bank account frozen. So again, this is a member. What's going on here?
Done here in the chat room. Is the Emergency Act staying? I guess I could make a poll, but the way I see the chat reacting, it sounds like it is.
All right. Well, shit. If they just announced it, I literally missed it. But I think that They announced they were. Let's see if we've got anything on CBC or the National Post. Live streaming tyrants enacting tyranny. What a time to be alive. Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that, Graham. And in fact, it's a really interesting time to be alive because, again, I can't help but believe, what goes on behind closed doors, right? And before social media, how many of us would have just believed what the mainstream media was lying to us about, right? Like, oh, I guess they are all racist. There's the single photo with a Confederate flag and a Nazi flag, and they're saying it's violent, so probably it is. Sean Sound was paying more attention than us. I heard 145 to 155. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Circling back to me, no, Al, anyone that joined the Discord, you're in there for life for free. Absolutely. I'm not going to do it. Global news live stream of it ended. Yeah, let's see. Right now, it doesn't look like the news is updating enough. Maybe Google's faster on it. But again, I hope it didn't pass. If it didn't pass, then we still need to be vigilant as ever. I meant to put Google. Because either way, the story's not over yet. But if it didn't pass, it's hard to not believe that that wouldn't be viewed as a lack of confidence in Trudeau and the Liberal Party. Okay, it looks like it passed. Liberals NDP passed key vote on Emergencies Act used for convoy blockades. I wonder if CTV News still has anyone talking. All right. Well, again, if I'm looking on the bright side of things, I guess this was to be expected. So we're not really any different than where I would have believed us to be 20 minutes ago. And this language that we don't want to trigger an election on the Emergencies Act, like, that's the language of cowards, right? That's the language of quislings, of collaborators, of individuals that have no interest in freedom. All right, Lisa Klassen telling us it passed. Again, apologies, guys, that I was ranting and raving when they actually announced it and I had the audio turned off there. But okay, well, it is what it is. Again, technically, no big surprises there. I'd love to help you guys in any way I can, so hit me up with questions and stuff like that. I'd preemptively written a small list of topics that I did want to bring up, so I'm just going to track that down quick here. Assuming I didn't, I think I did close it. But essentially, I know a bunch of people have been asking different questions about, what's my opinion on this, that, or the other? Should you get out Canada? Maybe we'll start there. Should you leave Canada? That's such a personal decision that only you can decide it. For myself, for certainly the last year, if not the last year and a half, it's a debate that's been raging in my brain. And, if I had no family, right? If my parents still didn't live in Canada, if my sister and her husband and their 3 children didn't live in Canada, yeah, there's a good chance I wouldn't be in Canada right now. And I'd like to think that I would still be fighting on behalf of Canadians, but I'd probably be live streaming from a sunny location. If you're literally just like a single person or completely unattached, or for whatever reason you don't feel like you've got deep roots in Canada and freedom's one of your core values and fundamental beliefs, I think that you've got an inflection point here. Is it worth fighting for? Is it worth being punished for? Is it worth having repercussions? And if the answer is no, that you're not willing to pay that price, then personally, I suspect that you probably will be better served to choose and, move to probably Florida, maybe Texas. I think that those are valid options for Canadians. If you want to look outside of America, I know my buddy Mike Rosehart, he's doing a lot of research on Bahamas. He's very bullish there because of tax reasons and stuff like that. And again, 0% tax does sound enticing. He's explained to me that you literally don't file a tax return. I personally think if you're thinking long-term time horizons, if you want to be in like the future Hong Kong, but hopefully it doesn't get swallowed up by China the way Hong Kong has. If you want to live in a sovereign jurisdiction, I think that El Salvador is presenting an interesting opportunity. I don't think that it's far enough along its trajectory for one to be able to move to El Salvador and feel with 100% confidence that it's going to become a Bitcoin hub or capital of the world, or, you know, a jurisdiction for freedom-loving individuals. But if you guys haven't read, I encourage you to read The Sovereign Individual. And in that, The Sovereign Individual, and you'll hear this amongst Bitcoiners as well, but in that book, they kind of explore this idea that, you know, in the, I hope I get my timelines right here, but essentially in the medieval era, in the Renaissance era, we saw the rise of all these like microstates, right, or city-states. And with that became a multitude of options for those that were mobile. And understand that right now in this moment in history, all of us are far more mobile than our ancestors would have been, you know, in the 14th or 15th centuries and so on. So there is an interesting opportunity if you want to go find, you know, the new Wild West, if you want to be on the cutting edge and help influence the building of something. I truly think that Bitcoin, I truly think that El Salvador is an interesting opportunity. I would encourage you guys to at least do some research on it. You know, I know people that have moved to Mexico, Costa Rica. There's definitely options out there, but it really is a personal decision. I don't think that there's a one size fit all. I know guys that have gone to Dubai. Others are thinking about Portugal. And what you really need to do is like not act emotionally or reactive to this, but really sit down and think about like what is the life you want to live, not like 10 months from now, but, you know, 10 years, 10 decades from now. What sort of legacy, what sort of relationships, family, what sort of impact do you want to have built, and really build out a framework around that. And so again, those are just kind of my rambling thoughts on relocating. Again, that's not to say that you have to do that. I think that it's a very noble endeavor to decide to, you know, stand up, speak out, and hold your ground, hold your line here in Canada. And on a 10 plus year timeline, it's hard for me to not believe that we'll either see a return of a more federalized system in Canada, the US, or both, or we'll see a balkanization of North America, where we'll see it broken up into multiple nation states or quasi nation states. And so again, I think that you could even move within Canada to set yourself up for a better situation, right? Now, if you're black pilled to white pilled on what's going on right now in the world, I don't think it's wise to want to live in large metropolitan urban dense centers. Again, I don't think that the darkest timeline or, you know, extreme civil unrest, riots, you know, supply chain shutting down, I don't think that that's guaranteed for the future. But I do believe that right now it's a higher probability than probably at any point in my life up until this moment in time. And so because of that, for me, the risk reward of living in a large city just isn't there when you can have like Starlink internet, when you can find really cheap land in the middle of nowhere where you don't have lots of neighbors, but those neighbors you do have are much more self-sufficient. A lot of them, like for example, here, the Citadel, right? We're at least a 4 to 5 hour drive from any large city centers, right? And if we're going to define a large city center as over 1 million people, we're more than a 6 hour drive from any large urban centers. We're also not on natural like foot migration paths. So again, if you were to like the darkest timeline and society really collapses, you know, the large exodus from large metropolitan urban centers, again, we're just not on the natural path of that. Whereas if you're along like the 401 corridor, understand that that's a natural migraine path for humans, right? It would have been natural anyways, but because there's a major highway there, it's going to be doubly the fact, or compounding. So those are just kind of my hot takes. I think if you're going to go down the rabbit hole of becoming a prepper or thinking about the homestead mindset, the first thing, like literally think about the hierarchy of human needs, right? Like you need oxygen. Well, probably no matter what jurisdiction you're looking at moving to, you've got air to breathe. But the next one becomes water. Can you have water sovereignty, right? And so for me, having a giant lake that almost no one lives on, a freshwater lake, is a very attractive feature. And one of the reasons I was drawn to the Citadel. But again, you can have wells, you could have a river passing through your property. But if you don't have access to clean or potable water, or water you can turn into becoming potable, I think that you're probably doing yourself a disservice if you're trying to go down the homesteading, prepper, or just natural resiliency path. And then naturally it becomes, can you grow food? Can you raise food on your property? So again, I think having a little bit of acreage, making sure that you don't have like tons of neighbors, and ideally that you start building real relationships with those around you. All of that is part of the thesis of what I'm doing here with the Citadel. And see this as preparing for the end of the world, but preparing for any inevitability. So if it turns out that like, hey, I missed the mark by a mile and the world's a much better and more pleasant place than I could have ever imagined in the future, well, fuck, I've got water nature around me, and I'll build relationships with people that live near me. You know, if we go on to the most prosperous timeline, that still feels like a win. But if we find ourselves either for a short period of time or extended period of time with extreme volatility in our society, I think that this sort of property or this situation also lends itself well to that. I think if I was a very young person starting on the journey of life, I would want, again, I would building technological skills, but also, you know, like thinking of like majoring in tech, right? So like learning about whatever coding, DeFi, Bitcoin and stuff like that. But then I'd want to minor in very practical skill sets. And you can find a balance between those two worlds. All right, I'm going to check out what you guys are sharing with me in the chat, and feel free to ask any questions you guys. People confirming that it passed. Basmatic, will he ban cash as well? I think that they're going to need a smoking gun to pass to ban cash. I think that it's almost just as likely that they implement a CBDC before they'd ever ban cash, and they'll like, again, this is just me shooting from the hip here, but they'll tie it into like the government benefits program. They'll tie it into like a universal basic income, and essentially they'll make it seem like it's such a good idea that you're a fool to say no to it. I think that it'll be a while before they outlaw it, unless they can show like, you know, unless like next the truckers start raising cash and they can really demonize it, or they can somehow like tie it to the Coots 13 or Coots 11 or whatever it was. I think that it's still relatively a low risk at this point in time, but certainly like 10 years from now, yeah, they're going to want to get rid of cash. And you only need to look towards some of the Scandinavian countries, right? And like, I forget whether it's Norway or Sweden, but one of those two is like 95% of all transactions are non-cash, right? So you definitely want to pay attention to those things, but I don't think that like you need to immediately worry about your cash becoming illegal in the next year or two. If it does, then like, whew, I'll be blown out of the water. Oh, thank you, Hungarian Experiment. The final vote was 185, 151. Well, it is what it is. Graham Griffin, the risk of sounding like a nerd, it was like Natalie Portman's line at the end of Star Wars Episode 3. So Liberty dies with thunderous applause. Yeah. I actually like, I've been thinking about going back and watching it just because I see so many people referencing it. And honestly, I think I only watched the first Star Wars trilogy once, and that was enough for me. But it feels like it'd be worth it to go back and re-review it. But any student of history, right, knows how this goes. And if you're not a student of history, I think now's a decent time to brush up, at least on the broad strokes of it. Aislinn says, screw this. I was born free. It's a mindset. If they squeeze me out of society, then fine. They can have it. I'll live a better life without it. Yeah, and absolutely. Like, I try not like wallow in despair for extended periods of time. I'll definitely allow it to wash over myself from time to time. And whether that's a good idea or a bad idea, it's just my nature at least. But there is still a lot we can have control of, right? You can literally get control of your financial situation very easily, right? Find a low cost of living area, move there, pay off consumer debt, get rid of unnecessary debt, get rid of unnecessary payments. Again, like if you're in a terrible financial situation, don't become blind to it. Look at it with eyes wide open. If it's best for you to declare personal bankruptcy, like don't hesitate to do that if it's in your own best interest. Far too often, people just let situations fester. And this isn't specific to you, Aislinn. This is just general advice for people. But far too often, people let those situations fester and they avoid looking at what's potentially painful or embarrassing. Same from a health perspective, right? There's no excuse why all of us can't build out our own personal food supply chains. And I think that that's going to be a very wise choice for the foreseeable future. Again, if it turns out that I'm all overblown and I'm the Chicken Little claiming it's the end of the world as we know it, when in fact we go on to live in a paradise, well, shit, eating better food's never going to be a bad idea. And by better food, I don't mean like Michelin starred restaurants. I mean like knowing the farmer and how the farmer raises the animal, or raising your own animals, or raising your own fruits and vegetables and things of that nature. And I definitely think that the most probable disruptions we'll experience are going to be short-term disruptions. So again, even just having supplies, financial and food supplies for a month or two can probably put you at a great advantage compared to a lot of your peers or neighbors. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a large financial investment or a burden on you. So again, I'd encourage those that haven't already started to go down that path to consider it. And again, having more friends in times of uncertainty is never a bad idea. So start building those social networks. If your friends and family think you're crazy and you're soundly of the belief you're not, find new friends, build a new family. There's a lot more like-minded individuals out there than a lot of us would ever realize, but it's for a lack of searching that we never find them. Rosalia, I feel like selling my portfolio and get my money out of here. Again, very personal decision, but if you feel like that's right for you, I think the key is don't act emotionally, have a plan in place, and I'm sure you'll be fine either way. Beth says, and Beth, I haven't forgotten your DMs. It's just been, I've been so caught up in politics and stuff. I am interested in looking into what you shared with me on Instagram. Rad terminal, portable, off-grid, free internet, never have an ISP again. We've got Sherry. If you have to stay in Ontario, what would you recommend? Sell all investments? Again, Sherry, like, I'm going to be basing things off of my worldview, my perspective, and personal biases. So I don't want to tell someone a blanket statement. I don't know where you're at in life. I don't know, what your goals are in life. If you've got more than enough money for the rest of your life and you're more focused on protecting what you have rather than growing it, I don't think it's a bad idea to take some money off the table and maybe regroup, reassess, and figure out what's next. But at the same time, I do think that we're at a great risk of hyperinflation. So the idea of sitting on cash for an extended period of time isn't that tempting either. At the same time, some very smart people I follow, I know they're saying that they believe the Canadian banks are overvalued and in serious danger, particularly if we see the Canadian government go super tyrant or despot on what's going on here. So I don't know. Will Canadian real estate still be as popular with foreign investors when we live in a banana republic? Maybe it will, maybe it won't, right? It wasn't until Cuba went full communist that really the corporations pulled their shit out of Cuba, like the U.S. corporations. And even then, they tried to nudge the CIA into taking back their possessions on their behalf through like the Bay of Pigs and shit like that. So it's such a dynamic situation. It's very personal. But I don't think it's a bad idea to sit down and have a real conversation with the stakeholders in your life. So, right, if you've got friends or family that are very important to you in your long-term plans, I would sit down and figure out, what are you guys trying to do, right? And can you accomplish it now? I think far too often a lot of us put off for tomorrow what we could do today, and it's a disservice to all of us, right? For the last, like, those that know me for the last 10 years, I've kind of talked about this idea of having a intentional community and group of like-minded individuals, because I just love exploring ideas and interesting personalities and things of that nature. And my long-term dream was always to like buy an island in the Caribbean, right? And literally have my own island, essentially like create my own country, I would joke. And, you know, I did a lot of soul searching over this last year and a half. And I decided, you know what? Is the island part what's really important, or was it the community part that's really important to Matt? And the answer is, the island would be really fun, and it's a huge bonus, but it's actually not mission critical to what my dreams were. So I could actually accomplish it with a waterfront property in Northern Ontario where I can attract like-minded individuals. And then down the road, if things get better or maybe they get worse, I can always look at starting up a second location, right? Whether that happens to be in Florida, Texas, or somewhere even sunnier than those locales. And that's been kind of how I've approached the last year and a half. And again, just food for thought, not saying that's the right choice for everyone, but I would really think about, like, where do you want to be in 10 or 20 years from now? As Aislinn said, we were all born free, and I sure as hell know I'm going to die free. And what happens in between, I'm going to focus on having as much control over as possible. And part of that's just not giving into fear and giving into, emotions in the moment. So again, for all I know, tomorrow Trudeau could follow a favor and we could see things completely do a 180. And I would hate for someone to solely react based upon fear in this moment in time. One of the discussion points I have with everyone that considers moving to the Citadel is I want to make sure they're not just running away from something. I want you running towards something, right? I want you running towards building a better life for you and yours, building the future that you dream of, right? Impacting the world or the culture in the way that you want, right? And you feel is right. I have a place to go back to, my homeland, but I can't leave CA now. Well, yeah, that's definitely a frustrating, unfortunate situation. I don't know all the details of your situation, but I would look strong and hard and make sure that you're not making any wrong assumptions, right? Like, I've got friends that are not vaccinated that seem to somehow still be able to travel internationally from Canada. And sometimes it just takes creativity. Sometimes it just takes brass balls. But certainly, if you want to go back to your homeland and you believe it's right for you, don't just assume because the government tells you can't, that you can't. I would look deeper into it and make sure that, before writing it off as impossible, make sure that you've exhausted all options available if it's what you want. Al says, Matt, is that the Citadel in the background photo? Yes. Although it's not a live photo because there's like 3 feet. Is there more than 3 feet of snow right now? I haven't even gone outside in a little bit. But there's a shit ton of snow out there. But this is what it would look like in, the spring, summer time period. And so you can see, there's multiple cabins, and we've got the main lodge. That's where I'm shooting right now. We've got like 400 feet of like sandy waterfront, lots of parking, and, over time hoping to help this property become more independent and off grid. We'll eventually get some animals and some raised bed gardens here. Also looking to buy a nearby farm so that we can even become more food independent, because I really do believe that's important. Raz, how does one escape Canada unvaccinated? Yeah, I think you need to really read the rules and talk to others that are doing it, but there does appear to be a handful of ways. Some of those ways would probably get me banned. Tyler, hey man, hope all is well. How are you liking the Citadel in the winter? There's a lot of snow, but and it's very cold, but it honestly doesn't impact me too much. We've got a couple snowmobiles now, although I honestly haven't even taken them out for a rip. You can walk out on the ice and stuff like that, and there's lots of trails that you can walk through. Although you kind of wade through it right now with all the snow. But saw it on Boxing Day. Saw like a lynx crossing the lake doing his thing. Seen lots of deer and when it was warmer, partridges and stuff like that. So definitely enjoying it, and we've got a lot of work in front of us, but a lot of opportunities as well with the Citadel. Free Faster says, spent the last 2 years building a cabin in the woods off-grid with 8 kilowatt solar system, well, septic, Starlink, and excellent deer hunting and fishing. Now time to stack some sats in case they freeze me. That's awesome, man, and congrats on that. And if you're, up by Fort Francis, Kenora area, or even in the Thunder Bay area, give us a shout out. We'd love to get connected with more neighbors and like-minded individuals. That's a language I don't speak. Matt McKeever, love and respect from Toronto. Appreciate it, Sean. Yeah, I don't speak that. Nathan, I'm likely going to go to the U.S. at this point. Freedom, much lower cost of living, and real estate opportunities are significant. Yeah, and while on a long enough time horizon, I don't think any of us can outrun what the elites, the plutocrats, have planned for us. I think that the United States will be one of the last, particularly certain states in the United States, will be one of the last free havens. And, I think that both Texas and Florida, in addition to other, like I know Idaho, Tennessee, West Virginia, lots of those states seem to have promise and long-term viability for a multitude of reasons. And I definitely love the idea of eventually getting another Citadel like this down there. So, feel free, if anyone wants to JV on building an intentional community in the United States, slide into the DMs. They are open. Vote was 185 yay to 151 nay. Not happy at all. We are in trouble. Absolutely. At the same time, we've probably been on this trajectory a lot longer than any of us want to admit. And we probably still have a little bit more control than a lot of us realize. And so I encourage everyone to, maybe have some tough conversations with friends and family, look yourself in the mirror and decide, who do you want to be? Where do you want to live? How do you want to live? And then focus on making that happen, regardless of what others may wish for you. Was the trucker convoy controlled opposition? Hell, I'm not willing to say anything's impossible in this day and age, but based upon the research I've done into like CSIS, right, the CSIS here in Canada, I'm not sure they're capable of that. Now, if you're to tell me that this was a CIA op, that's probably mildly more viable in my worldview. But honestly, it's just such a grassroots movement that it's tough for me to want to be blackpilled on that. Again, I can respect those of you that have different interpretations of the past events and things of that nature. But I guess if that's the case, again, I would still rather stand up and speak out for freedom than not, because they would have found another excuse. They would have found another reason. They would have found another false flag operation in order to drive the results they wish. So, again, just like when you start learning more about the CIA, you're like, God damn it, they're capable of anything. Oh my God, at least 3.5 feet of snow right now, says Hungarian Experiment. Sean says, I really want you to check out Mark Moss's latest video. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Like, I like Mark Moss. I've enjoyed his content I've consumed in the past. I don't even know why he's not on my regular rotation, but I guess there's just other like Bitcoin influencers and other guys in that space that push things. So, but if he's doing something, if he's doing a farm and stuff, yeah, I haven't been paying enough attention to what he's up to. So that'd be cool to check out. And again, if you guys haven't seen, there's a handful of different people that are doing cool stuff, right? We've got Tim Poole in West Virginia. We've got Owen Benjamin with Bear Terrier in Idaho. We've got Tucker Max doing his ranch thing out in Texas. Sounds like you're telling me, Sean, Mark Moss is doing his own thing. There's the Bitcoin communities creeping up in El Salvador, a robust Bitcoin community creeping up in the Miami area. So there are communities that really respect freedom and really respect individuals that want freedom. And so again, far too often, I think a lot of us are just like born in a place and think that we have to die in that place. And that is a false narrative, a false paradigm that either they or we or maybe a combination have convinced ourselves of. And again, we're freer than we think, but they're not going to ever admit it to us. What's the best way to buy gold, silver to store it? Yeah, it's a good question. And understand right now there's different like reporting requirements depending upon the volume of gold, at least. I don't know if it applies to silver, but of gold if you're buying it. So, I could understand why certain individuals want to buy gold privately on the secondary market rather than going to like a gold broker or precious metal broker. You can, in theory, store gold or silver in a bank safety deposit box, but I wouldn't want to store it there. Probably slightly better than that is at like a jeweler's or at a like a gold broker or like precious metal broker. But again, I personally wouldn't want to, unless I had silly amounts of it and wanted to store it in multiple locations, then I'd maybe consider putting part of it there. Obviously, you can invest in your own safe or your own storage solutions at your property. That's probably more desirable for the average person. But again, there's a balance there. If you don't have a lot of funds to invest, you don't want to invest a ton of money in like the craziest safe and then end up with like no gold or silver to have. I don't think that having hordes of it is necessarily the play either. I definitely can understand wanting like at the current market value, like a month to a year or two's worth of purchasing power stored in precious metals, physical precious metals that you control. That doesn't seem like a terrible idea. Arguably the same thing with cash, and arguably the same thing with at least some privacy coins and stuff like that. And I definitely think that having some Bitcoin is wise as well, because if you ever decide you need to like get the fuck out, I think that being able to cross borders and cross through inspections without, having your valuable assets found on your person is great. And like technically, if you've memorized your seed phrase or you've, very intelligently hidden it on the internet, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, like don't even try and do that shit unless you've really read a lot of different books on, privacy and things of that nature. But there are certain things you could do to try and situate yourself well for that. I think that at least a slightly diversified strategy in regards to your store of wealth is wise in this time and age. Again, if you're super young and you've got nothing, I would more focus on just building relationships and trying to aggressively grow my wealth at this stage. I don't think that we need to all throw up our hands and give up. I'm talking from, someone's perspective that, if I never made another dollar in my life, but the government didn't confiscate any of my wealth, I could live a very fulfilling life based upon the resources I have at my current disposal. So wealth protection, becomes more important or more paramount under my personal situation. Whereas if it was 21-year-old Matt or even 25-year-old Matt, I would still be trying to aggressively grow my wealth, aggressively grow my network and things of that nature. And again, depending on what the future holds, I may still decide to do that. Free Faster, any tips or resources for anonymous crypto ownership would be helpful given the government freezing accounts. Thanks, comrade. So if you go back to Wednesday or Thursday's video, I actually share with you guys some of my best recommendations for privacy in regards to Bitcoin. Or I'm just going to pull it up here, but you can jump over and check out Maple Pill clips. And the most recent clip is actually me talking about Bitcoin and privacy. And I share 2 amazing resources there. Now, again, understand when you're getting into self-custody of Bitcoin, you're technically becoming your own bank. And so there's a huge fiduciary duty you have to yourself, to your family, to your friends, to your personal network. And so you need to make sure that you're protecting your wealth. And so one of the resources I share is like a 36-hour course, but it's free. And it's an absolutely amazing resource. So again, for those of you that are serious, don't just like be like, 36 hours is too much work. I'm going to pass and I'll just hope that I can store it on Shakepay or Kraken or Coinbase or some other online brokerage. No, you need to have self-custody of your keys. And honestly, if you want to be anon about it, you're going to have to do more than just have it in self-custody. But one of the things I saw earlier today from a Bitcoiner I really respect is also putting everything into context, right? And so the government usually goes after low-hanging fruit. So if you can also position yourself not to be low-hanging fruit in regards to the tyrants the tyrants and the petty communists and the government agents and stuff like that, you can do a lot by doing a little in order to separate yourself from the pack and give yourself a just to be taken advantage of, right? The same idea is like, not dressing flashy. If you don't dress flashy, there's less of a chance you're going to get mugged or robbed, right? If you're not wearing like fancy watches, you're probably not going to have your watch stolen. So there's tons of like best practices that we can all implement in times of uncertainty to better protect ourselves. Hey, what's up, Justin DeSec? It's buried on the Citadel grounds. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We've also got lots of crown land around us, but just a FYI, Justin, really enjoyed the email you sent me yesterday. Me and Kellen both got a laugh out of it, so appreciate that. Sean says, how do we contact you? What's your email address if we have ideas? I'm pretty sure in most of my video descriptions, there's an email address. If not, there's a link to the Discord for sure in all my video descriptions. And join the Discord. There's a thread there called Ask Matt Anything. Definitely the best way to get a hold of me. You can also send me DMs there or send me DMs on Instagram. Okay. What else we got? Hungarian experiment. Interesting for hiding keys on the internet. I could see something like write a blog post and secretly have it hidden with the word being the fourth word in every sentence or something. Yeah, again, please do a lot of research on that because you're going to need to do a lot more than that if you want to actually protect yourself and like make it foolproof. Like I know of, I'll just tell you guys an anecdotal story, but a friend of mine, or at least someone I creep on Bitcoin Twitter, and we mildly know each other. He had a small wallet that he kept some Bitcoin in, and he wrote like a poem that involved all his seed phrases. And someone hacked his Dropbox account, got access to that poem, and then must have done like a brute force attack and got access to that wallet and wiped it. So you really need to do your research on that shit if you're ever going to let your keys touch the internet. But there, in theory, are ways you could do it. But again, please don't just blindly do that. We've got, thanks, Matt, real estate resources. We'll go check that clip. Awesome. Some more stuff I can't read. Will you ever run for office? I definitely appreciate, thanks, Buttery Nipples, for the question. But I definitely appreciate those of you that ask me such questions. I don't have any political ambitions. I'm almost of the opinion that anyone who wants to run for politics should immediately be disbarred for their desire to get into politics. Now, again, there's the occasional exception like Ron Paul. There's probably at least one other good politician that's existed through the course of humanity. I just don't know of them. But, there used to be this tradition back when Rome was more of a republic rather than a tyranny or dictatorship. And the thing was, you could never recommend yourself for politics. And in fact, if like a friend pushed you to go into the Senate in Rome, you literally had to denounce it and say, never would I do that. And like, if enough people were vocal and demanded you did it, then you could like accept it. But like, if you accepted too fastly, they would immediately become suspicious of you, as they should. And that's the biggest issue we've got with like political dynasties and everything else. Honestly, like, I'm just not convinced that we can this is going to be kind of black pilled, but maybe it's white pilled. I'm just not convinced that we can actually fix the system from within it. For those of you that choose to embark on that, that's amazing. I wish you the best of interest and hope that you don't become corrupted. Again, it seems like it's very difficult for most people to not become blinded, corrupted, greedy at some point along their political journeys or ambitions. But yeah, for me, I don't have a desire whatsoever. Maybe decades from now, I'll come at it with a different perspective, but I definitely, at a minimum, want a little bit more life experience before even thinking of that. But yeah, it doesn't seem like my jam. I don't think that I'd be willing to, like, you have to pay some politics almost no matter what. So I don't want to play any of their games. It's so dirty. Sherry says, what is your thoughts on land ownership? Should we own our land outright or finance? My understanding is we don't actually ever own our land in Canada. Yeah, it's a complicated situation. you're never really going to truly own it. The government could always seize it, right? You're always going to have to pay property taxes and things of that nature. Again, I think there's certain things you could do to try and position yourself better than most. One, again, just trying to like not have extremely desirable land, right? But like desirable for you, but not desirable for the masses or government to want to seize it. Again, one of the benefits of, I think, the location I'm in. Beyond that, should you own it outright or not? I think that's really a personal decision. You know, when I was in the wealth accumulation phase, you know, the fastest way to growing your wealth is through leverage. And so certainly you need to leverage capital, you need to leverage other people, you need to leverage knowledge and expertise and things of that nature. If you're more in the plateau or stabilizing phase of your life, I can see arguments for not wanting leverage. I suspect that it's more likely we're going to see hyperinflation than deflation in the near future, which would be an argument towards fixed interest rate debt. So again, if we're talking about financially optimal decisions, however, I'm starting to become, maybe just with age, I'm becoming a little bit too romantic with my my mental notions, but I love the idea of not participating in the fiat system or in the debt system because it's so corrupted. And, you know, the Cantillon effect essentially states that those who get closest to the central bank or to the printing press are always going to be those that succeed the most when it comes to financial benefits and stuff. And like, we're never going to beat BlackRock. We're never going to beat Blackstone, and we're never going to beat the hedge fund managers that buy politicians, sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly. So again, those of you that choose to use debt, I don't think that you're a bad person for choosing so. At the same time, I do think that I know that until we actually fix the money, we're never going to really fix all the problems in the world, and you'll never fix it 100%, but we could certainly have a better society than we do today if we were to actually move back to a hard currency or, you know, a Bitcoin standard. Because right now, one of the things that we all need to understand, and if you don't, I encourage you to like read more about Bitcoin, is that right now fiat currency essentially generates high time preference, right? And high time preference essentially means that like you want everything now, you want to like buy now, sell now, Essentially, high time preference means that you wouldn't be able to pass the marshmallow test. And it's reasonable. Like right now, we've got a government telling us that CPI inflation's at like 5, 6, 7%, depending upon what country you're in. And if you're not retarded, you know that it's actually probably double digits in your country. And so when you're literally losing 10% of your money's value every year, it incentivizes poor long-term behavior and poor long-term thinking. So again, I think it's easy for me to want to get up on a high horse and think that there's nobility in not participating in our current fiat and debt systems. But from a practical sense, we're also dealing with people that already have the deck stacked in their favor. And if you're not even going to be like, you know, I don't know what a good example would be, but it'd be like, oh man, this guy's cheating at euchre, so I'm going to try and beat him at euchre without using cards. And you'd be like, well, that's not actually even possible. So yeah, maybe I'll have to come up with a perfect analogy someday for how I interpret the fiat system. But it does a giant disservice to all of us. And I've heard some fascinating talks from Bitcoiners and stuff that even, you know, cite the fact that we live in a fiat currency, a fiat monetary system, and that drives such a high time preference that's why people don't think long-term, they don't plan long-term. And that's why we even see people with like high time preferences when it comes to food, wanting to eat all the sugar, all the salt, consume all the calories right now, rather than promoting long-term thinking about, you know, the longevity of the diet that you are getting and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know if that helps or not, but there's my ramblings. Hungarian experiment, laugh my ass off. Best username ever. Okay, we've got Sean. What's your opinion on Richard Cooper? Entrepreneurs for Cars is the same name of his channel. He talks about similar topics as yourself. He's from Whitby. Oh, never heard of him. I'll write down his name. Richard Cooper. There's definitely lots of people doing cool stuff. Sometimes it's just hard to get connected with them. All right, I haven't eaten much today. I think I'm going to wrap up soon. But if you guys got some random questions you want to get off your chat, hit me fast and we'll go fast. Random, but what happened to Clubhouse? Do people still use that platform? At least a bunch of Bitcoiners do, but outside of Bitcoin, Twitter, I don't know anyone that uses it. Does it go to the Senate now for a vote? I believe it does, but I don't trust the Senate. What do you libtards are going to impose it here? They keep saying they're not going to, at least on principal residences. And I think that would be political suicide in our current environment, but eventually they're going to want to, right? Because I think we all know their playbook is essentially you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. I kind of feel like that's bullshit. First of all, I believe I own this. I believe I own Matt McKeever. And I believe I should be able to own the fruits of his labor. And if I can't own those two things, then literally what's the goddamn point? Nick, hey, Matt, want your opinion on the topic of a young person staying in Canada and building a life of in this political landscape continues, or just move to a palace where the notion democracy exists, Texas. If you don't feel like you've got strong community or familial ties here in Canada, for a young person, I think the best play would be to emigrate. I think that you could do far worse than finding yourself landing in Florida or Texas. I think that there's lots of innovation going on in both those states. I think if you just want to get like middle nowhere and be surrounded by a bunch of homesteaders and preppers, I think that Idaho would be fantastic. I've heard some interesting things about Tennessee and West Virginia as well. So definitely those are probably worth researching. Brock, hey, Matt, a bit of an odd question, but I wondered if you have ever heard of or listened to Peter Joseph, the guy who made the documentary Zeitgeist. That sounds familiar, but off the top, I can't tell you. So I'll write it down. I'll check it out. Appreciate it, Brock. Butterfly nipples again. Do you think firearms are a good investment for hyperinflation? Firearms, in theory, yes. The thing you have to be careful of, particularly in Canada, where we don't have a Second Amendment, is the risk of the government just outlawing the firearms you own or making you register them or essentially just confiscating them. So I would hate to have my entire net worth tied up in firearms or things of that nature. But certainly when you're thinking about like, will this keep up with inflation? Yeah, I suspect that it will keep up or beat inflation. Also, what's good in general is usually when the government puts in restrictive rules around firearms, usually they grandfather that shit in because it caused less of a stir. So again, if you're bullish on them not literally trying to seize your guns, that could be a decent investment. The one thing I will say is a lot of people think for like end of the world prepping and stuff like that, that guns or bullets would be the best currencies. I'm not going to say that they'd be bad currencies, but I don't think that they'll actually become the ultimate currencies. There's a fantastic thread that's like famous in prepper worlds about a dude that was in the former Yugoslavia during the war that went on there. And he was in a city that was under siege for over a year. And he kind of shares what some of the best, like he shares his personal experiences and tips on surviving and stuff. And like some of the things that are valuable are things that people would never think of that aren't even that expensive, right? Like he talks about, they happen to live near a distillery. So when shit hit the fan, they went and kind of raided the distillery, had lots of alcohol. That was very useful for trade. He talked about how lighters, flashlights, and batteries were extremely valuable as well. He says the guns were valuable, but like it's hard to want to part with a gun under those circumstances. So, and the only thing with ammunition is there's so many different guns and types of ammunition that again, it's not like a one size fits all approach. And, he talked like one of the things that if you get deep into kind of prepper communities that you'll find is like people are like garbage bags, man, garbage bags, feminine hygiene products, like some stuff that like we use every single day that if all of a sudden the water was to stop flowing would even become more valuable. And that like worst case scenario, you can literally just use for personal consumption. Those can be very attractive as well. But again, I'm not saying that you need like a you know, a warehouse of tampons in order to survive the apocalypse, but just kind of some food for thought. And if you're interested in actually reading about that thread, I shared it under the resource tab on the Discord. So again, you guys can check it out there. Al, thanks, Matt. I feel that I personally needed this group chat coming together after the libs tightened their grips on us. Hey, I'm glad if I could help anyone feel a little bit less crazy, a little bit less alone, that I could do it. And you guys definitely do the same for me. April saying, go ice fishing. Yeah, I need to do that. Graham, moved to the Citadel. I got the 17 feet of snow off the stairs today. It's like a whole new place now. Yes, Graham went ham on the snow front. You guys can check him out on IG and see all the crazy snow he moved. Matt, you have a chat server. I've got a Discord server. So I think that would classify as a chat server, and I encourage you guys to check it out. Let me know, would you guys like, I could set up like a Telegram chat and stuff like that if we thought that there was going to be enough of us. Probably we should now, because soon everything else will be illegal. Maybe I'll look at setting up a Telegram as well and make it part of the Problems or Profits ecosystem. Seriously, it's fucking awesome here. No better place in the world right now. I appreciate that, Graham, and I'm of a similar but biased opinion. Free Faster, if we can't own anything, there is no incentive to try. I will just become a lazy degen and do nothing to contribute to society. Hope it does not come to that. Agree. And yet, you know, in my more black pill or clown pilled moments, I can't help but feel like we're literally headed on the trajectory of that movie, Idiocracy, right? That was the one where like the dude travels to the future and they're like, what is it? Their form of Gatorade they're putting on plants and it's killing all the plants. It feels like we're close to that. Potato guns all the way. I can't speak to that. I haven't read potato guns being that popular on prepper forums, but potatoes are cheap and easy to grow. So you could have an infinite amount of ammunition, I suppose. Couple of typos. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you sacrificing your future social credit score against the Canadian government. Yep, I will absolutely. I'm going to be starting off at 0, and I don't think I'll ever find my way off of 0 when it comes to the social credit score system. But yeah, sadly, that's actually a legitimate concern. All right. Well, appreciate you guys. You know, smash the like button, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. I really do appreciate those of you that engage, comment, and share the Maple Pill. I'm just trying to generate more common knowledge and awareness with it. So the fact that you guys are willing to give me your time and attention means a lot to me, and I hope you get value from it. I am constantly looking to improve it, so please do give me your feedback. For example, this week, some of the improves we've got is Peter hooked me up. Oh, did that not work? There we go. Peter hooked me up with some new buttons. So we've got buttons now. So I can tell you hit the like button and subscribe. I can tell you to follow me on Instagram at Matt McKeever Unfiltered. But again, let me know. Do you think it's too long, too short? Do I go too deep into the details or too far off into the weeds? Too much of Matt's personality and opinions, not enough of them? I'm definitely looking to try and create the best content I can in regards to what I'm doing with the Maple Pill, because again, I'm at least so self-absorbed that I believe it's really important for all of us to be talking about politics and what's going on in the world right now. I'm just trying to do my part in that regard. So again, appreciate any and all feedback. And one of the best ways to give me feedback, join the Problems or Profits Discord, link in the video description down below. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll probably be ranting a bunch about the Emergencies Act being enacted. And maybe we can make it a fun game. Let's start a betting game and bet the over-under on how long it lasts. I suspect that we're going to be looking at, there's no way it's under 30 days, in my opinion. But we'll see. All right. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. And let's play the outro song.
Asking blue pill, red pill, corporate press, I've had my fill. I'm just a simple chap, believing in my own will. Web fire, math, table scheming, this is no drill. Haters masking boosted, but still with no chill. Need to come and